New guy hasn't had STI test in 20 years. Am I overreacting? I've 35 yo been dating this guy 42 yo exclusively for 2 months. I use an IUD for birth control and with previous boyfriends. I've gone without condoms after they get an STI test. I personally get tested before every new partner. Horniness got the better of me last night and I had sex with new guy for the first time without a condom. This guy has been involved in poly relationships and I wrongly assumed this meant safer sex practices. Post-orgasm clarity is real and immediately after we finished, I asked when his last STI test was. He said it had been about 20 years ago. And since then has had protected and unprotected sex with many people without definitively knowing their STI status. Honestly, learning this really disgusted me and I ended up leaving his place and driving an hour home. I spoke to him this morning and he seemed really remorseful and embarrassed and said something along the lines of "This hasn't been an issue for other partners, but your reaction was a wake-up call and I was raised by hippies and my family didn't go to doctors a lot growing up. So that's not a thing for me, didn't think it was a problem." While this is a 42-year-old man, I am shook. I don't think I can keep dating someone who has been so blasé about their and their partner's sexual health. Am I overreacting? Update to clarify. I get tested after every partner and have for years. He was in a poly relationship with a public health nurse right before we got together. Prior to that he told me he was in mostly monogamous LTRs punctuated by hookups and FWBs. Before this incident, our condom use was immaculate. He runs in some really progressive, sex-positive, queer communities. All of this made me feel like this was someone who took their sexual health seriously and probably influenced my dumbass decision to go bare. Some have brought up the fact that STI status wasn't discussed earlier and that I shouldn't have gone without a condom to begin with. You're right. That was really reckless on my part. I absolutely fucked up and made a terrible choice. This is not a normal occurrence for me. I feel pretty sleazy and equally grossed out with myself tbh. I ended things with him this afternoon not entirely for this reason. There were other issues at hand. I will be seeing a doctor tomorrow. Second update, I spoke to him this morning. He is getting tested and has agreed to share the results with me. I have a lifelong incurable STI from a partner who lied about testing their history. Please get yourself tested. Best thing to do: get tested every 3 months for the next 18 months. That's what I had to do when I found out my ex was sleeping unprotected with everyone on the planet. I'd keep in touch with him just so I could make sure he got tested too. OMG, I'm married and still agree to STI testing whenever the doctor asks. My reaction: WTF. Polyamory and no test in 20 years. I would had left. 2. Girl, don't walk. Run to schedule a tests plus ask what's the next best period to get tested again. You know, BC incubation. You are not overreacting. You better get an STD. STI test ASAP. Also check it. You can get the medicine that can prevent HIV within the first hours of exposure. Go to an emergency room or a Planned Parenthood and ask for PEP, post-exposure prophylaxis, to protect you from an HIV infection. Your first dose should be within 72 hours of the sexual encounter and you'll have to take a pill every day for a month, I believe. It's 95 effective. Edit updated the timing. Thank you, Ualeloni. I don't understand why STI testing in between partners isn't the norm. I've had 3 total sexual partners. Got a full panel after my final time with each one. Testing should not be stigmatized the way it is. It should be the standard. My girl. Please don't beat up on yourself so much. A lapse in judgment is called the human condition. You took the information you had and made a call that made sense at the time. We all do this on the daily. Whether it was the right move or not is debatable. But we don't get to rewind and make decisions based on the previews. Right? You're not gross. You're not sleazy. You're in the same boat as millions of women. I can't speak for all of them. But I'll speak for me. You're doing exactly what I would do. And what I would have done if I had the same support 15 years ago. I think you're very right to be concerned, but I really don't like all the moralizing in the comments. It sounds like the same old stuff people would scream at gay people about being irresponsible during the height of the AIDS epidemic. It's your choice whether to see the guy again. Obviously. But he seems remorseful and willing to go get tested and learn to be better. Isn't that what we want? Some of these comments seem to want punishment more than growth and learning. Fuck that guy. That's wildly unacceptable behavior. Especially after 20 years, it's basically an intentional choice to be risky. STD tests are so simple and easy and available. Not overreacting. Go get checked now and definitely make sure every guy uses condoms. I'm like a STI test ambassador for my friends BC. I always force them to go get them done. As ridiculous as this all seems, you, as a 35-year-old, chose to have unprotected sex because horniness got the better of you. The time to talk about this was before sex. You both made a mistake. And his practices are alarming. To say the least. I'd say if you like the guy and you think he's genuine, give it a shot. If not, don't. Please realize, however, you acted just as irresponsibly when you chose to have unprotected sex with him. I don't think you're overreacting. You two have obvious lines in the sand about sexual health. I can understand some of his point of view. We didn't go to the doctor much as a kid. But that feels like an excuse for not being proactive about protecting himself. As someone who dates poly, this is such a red flag. This means he's not only unable to take care of his own sexual health. It means that vital conversations are not happening in all his relationships. I can't imagine how muddy his boundaries are. What else is he not discussing with partners? Oof. My last partner didn't even want to discuss condoms. He brought his own. He was very enthusiastic about having all the tests done and offered to pay for my new IUD. You are not overreacting, but also never have unprotected sex without a conversation, and even with conversations, you need to know someone for a while before you know if you can entrust them with your health. If it were me in your shoes, I wouldn't have as much of an issue with him being blasé with his own health as I would him being blasé with my health. Post-coital honesty about anything involving STDs or testing is straight up dishonesty prior to sex. It's not okay. What else is a person willing to lie about and risk their partner's health for personal benefit of? They can do that. Huge red flag. I'd ask him to test right now. I'd get a test yourself right now. And get a follow-up as per your HCP recommendation.